Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs. Welcome back to my 1.9 Snapshot creative world. There have been some updates in the world of 1.9 development, and we're in Snapshot 15W44A today, so I'm going to run down a couple of the features that have been added recently, and a couple I didn't cover from the last Snapshot. First of all, something that's new to 15W44A, notch apples no longer have a crafting recipe in the game. So if you try and craft a notch apple using the regular 8 blocks of gold and an apple in the middle, you get nothing. Now that is an interesting change, and it's one that I imagine will confuse a lot of people who rely on notch apples in PvP environments. They are still going to be obtainable through finding them in loot chests, in dungeons, in abandoned mine shafts, that kind of thing. So the achievement still currently reads craft a notch apple for the overpowered achievement. That's going to be changed to obtain a notch apple, and you're going to get the achievement for finding them. So that kind of changes the landscape a little bit as far as PvP is concerned. It was always a little bit difficult to get that amount of gold in a UHC environment, and now that notch apples have been nerfed, you're going to see them used a little bit differently in PvP. So it's now kind of going to be a rush for dungeons if you want the benefits of a notch apple. Another minor thing they've added, but something that has always been on a few people's minds, is that now you can fill up a bucket, you can fill up a cauldron with a bucket of water, and you can now fill up a bucket of water from a cauldron as well. If you're confused about this and you thought it was possible before, try it in 1.8, because it's not actually possible to do that, but it just kind of made sense. It's something Dinnerbone has decided that should be added into the game. Apparently he'd been thinking about doing that for a little while, and that was that. One kind of minor thing that's probably going to affect builders a little bit is that glass blocks and glass panes now look pretty much exactly the same in terms of their colour. Previously, glass panes have always looked a little bit brighter, and this is apparently because they didn't react properly to the light map in the game. Glass blocks have always seemed a little bit duller, and now they are pretty much matched. I think the glass panes have basically been brought down to match the glass blocks a little better, so if you're a builder, which I am, and I know I've built stuff with glass panes specifically because they look brighter in the past, that's going to change up a little bit. Now, on to some major changes, and that brings us to the addition of end crystals to the game. There has always been a way to respawn the dragon in the 1.9 development snapshots, but it has been currently to make a creeper face out of clay, which was never going to be a permanent thing. They were always talking about changing that, and it was something to do with crafting the end crystals. Now, these aren't actually going to be craftable. They're going to be obtainable as a mob drop, and that is through skeleton horses. Now, if you've been keeping track of the development of 1.9, you'll know that skeleton horses now spawn naturally in survival during thunderstorms, and if approached, a lightning bolt strikes them and they spawn 4 skeletons riding skeleton horses, and they are tough as nails. Here's me trying to take them on with chain armor and diamond boots, and failing pretty badly. It's very, very difficult to melee these guys. You kind of have to get them trapped in a corner, because the new skeleton AI means they strafe around all over the place. But once you have unhorsed the rider, the horse itself goes down pretty easily and drops an end crystal when you kill it. So killing all 4 of these guys is going to be a little bit tough. I recommend doing it with a bow from a distance, because that seems like the best way of killing them, especially if they're not tracking you so they can't strafe around. That's probably going to be the best way of doing it. But then kill all 4 of the horses, which is going to be a bit of a sacrifice because skeleton horses are pretty cool to have. But then once you've got all 4 end crystals, you can return to the end and get about summoning the dragon back into existence. You can enjoy the new end portal sound, or at least I think that's new. I don't think I've ever heard it before. Maybe I've just not had the right sounds turned up. But if you head over to the portal and place 1 end crystal on each side of the portal back to the overworld, like so, it doesn't have to be dead center, but I find that just kind of looks the coolest. You'll notice that they start this animation together, and once they're all set up, they will start rejuvenating the end crystals on top of all the obsidian pillars surrounding the portal. Now, this is going to work a little bit different if you have a world that was generated in 1.8, because the pillars are going to be scattered around everywhere. I'm not sure if it will create some new pillars, especially if you've mined them all out with obsidian before. I haven't tested that yet, but as you can see, the portal explodes, it switches itself off, and the dragon returns to the end. Now, this is going to make the 1.9 dragon fight accessible to people who've already fought the dragon in 1.8, and you'll notice that the gateway to the outer end islands is still there, so you'll still be able to go back there even if you've just restored the dragon. However, if you don't want to use your crystals to respawn the dragon, or you've been lucky enough to find another skeleton horse and obtain additional end crystals, you'll be able to use them as a decorative feature, but they can only be placed on either Bedrock or Obsidian. Now, obviously, Bedrock is not going to be obtainable under normal survival conditions, so your end crystals are going to have to be placed at the bottom of the world in either the overworld or the nether, or potentially on top of the nether if you're one of those tricksy people who can get up there. You can also place them on Obsidian, and you have to be careful of the hitbox of these things because they have a pretty large hitbox. If you try and build around them, you won't be able to build up next to them. They kind of need a space of about 2 blocks either side, and you can see I'm not going to be able to build anything around these right now. Now, if you want to remove one of them, you can explode it pretty much the same way you could a crystal in the end, but the problem lies with moving the block that's underneath them, because if you do that, they still stay there. They still float in the air, but then if you explode them now, they cause massive damage to the environment, which is why I stepped outside of the boundary of the Ender Forts to demonstrate that. So you're going to want to be very careful if you're using these as a decorative feature, because they are going to do some damage. And I am on Peaceful right now, so the damage is not affected by the difficulty level. They are pretty much going to be the most volatile decoration you can get your hands on. That's pretty much a charged creeper explosion right there, so you do need to be very, very careful with these. Having said that, you can build up around them, and they look fantastic as decorative features. I've already tried putting an armor stand through them because you know me, but it didn't really look like anything in particular, so I'm not really going to be too fussed about that. But having these on top of, for example, some purple pillar around your base, as long as you're certain that nothing is going to shoot them and explode them, I think those look pretty cool. They've also got a circular shadow, which is kind of interesting for an entity to have a circular shadow, but then again, the shadows were recently changed in Minecraft so that player shadows are circular as well, so that's kind of interesting. Anyway, Simply Sark was one of the first people on the Minecraft Reddit to point out that these look pretty good as decorations, just don't touch them once they're there. It's also worth noting that, as with the current end crystals, they can be pushed by pistons. If you can push them using pistons and blocks, then they can be moved from side to side, and this one you can actually get it to sit quite nicely in between 2 blocks by pushing it, and you'll just be able to push it over by a block each time so it can rest in the sort of halfway position there. So it might be possible to do some very interesting stuff with this. It might even be possible to push some glass blocks and stuff down over the top of it to make a kind of display case for them. I'm going to try that right now because I haven't actually tried this yet. While I'm messing around with pistons, I want to introduce another feature that's been added in the previous development snapshot to this, and that is these igloos. These spawn naturally, but again quite rarely, in ice plains biomes, and if you go inside, you'll notice there is a little carpet, there's a bed, a furnace and a crafting table. If you look under the carpet there's not very much, but if you look under the carpet in some other igloos, you might find a trapdoor, and this trapdoor leads down to a hidden kind of research lab underneath the igloos where somebody has put a villager and a zombie villager. And now, why on earth might they put these two together with these arrows between them? This is basically a demonstration in-game of how to cure a zombie villager. In the chest nearby you'll find a golden apple, in the brewing stand nearby you'll find a splash potion of weakness, and that's giving you a hint that that needs to be applied to the zombie villager in order to turn him back into a regular guy. Now, this is something most people know, but for new players to the game, it's kind of a helpful hint. And you're probably wondering, wait, there's a brewing stand. Doesn't this completely break the idea of going to the nether? No, it doesn't. You need blaze powder to brew potions now, so you will still need to get to the nether even if you've acquired this brewing stand from one of the igloos. Aha, fantastic. So they can actually be pushed around pretty much like armor stands. I'm pretty sure they function just like entities. So maybe if you think these need a little bit more protection than all that, you can probably continue to surround these with glass so they have a slightly larger box. Bear in mind, though, that the entity is going to stick through the glass like an armor stand does. So you're not going to be able to pick block with these if you're using them in creative mode. You're probably going to have to build up a fair bit around here and then push some stuff in with pistons to get the results you want, because I'm right clicking there and I can't place a block that close to the end crystal. So that's going to take a little bit of careful arrangement, but having a presentation end crystal in your base is going to look pretty cool, so that's probably going to be worth checking out. And that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching this video. My name has been Pixlriffs. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. And today's video comes to you from the very, very kind Patreon donation of my good friend ZloeyXP, who has pledged $8 a month on Patreon, so it's going to be joining us on the Patron server to add to his long list of servers he already plays on, and has took me over my recent milestone goal to buy a monitor, so I can pay Kane back for the monitor he gave me the other day. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye for now. 15 diamond ore, however much lapis this is, I think it's somewhere in the 40s, like 48 or something. A decent chunk of redstone ore, some of which I even kept back for using for actual redstone ore stuff like bud switch.